The unexpected encounter. In the cold, sterile silence of the Shadowclaw's command deck, Supreme Hunter Vexor's presence was a testament to millennia of evolutionary perfection. The CAC species had long been the undisputed apex predators of the galactic ecosystem, their civilization built on a foundation of calculated conquest and relentless technological advancement. The quantum glass viewport revealed Earth, a blue-green marble suspended in the infinite darkness, completely unaware of the massive hunter ship hovering just beyond its perception. Vexor's multiple hearts beat in synchronized rhythm, his exoskeletal armor reflecting the soft ambient light of the command deck. Kai, his second-in-command, stood nearby, his scaled hide displaying intricate patterns that spoke volumes in the complex language of CAC communication. Their species had mastered technologies so advanced that most civilizations they encountered seemed like primitive children playing with rudimentary tools. Scan results confirm human technological capabilities remain minimal, Kai reported, his translator rendering the complex clicks and chirps into precise language. Their most advanced weaponry would barely scratch our outer hull. Vexor's feeding tentacles twitched, a gesture of mild amusement in CAC body language. Humans were fascinating creatures, perpetually engaged in territorial conflicts over insignificant patches of land, completely oblivious to the vast cosmic drama unfolding around them. But everything was about to change. The unexpected alert from their cloaking systems came without warning. For a species that had perfected stealth technology over thousands of galactic cycles, such an interruption was unprecedented. Supreme Hunter, Kai's voice carried a rare note of uncertainty, we're detecting an impossible transmission. The humans are broadcasting directly at us. Impossible. Their cloaking technology was based on quantum principles so complex that no emerging civilization could possibly comprehend, let alone penetrate. The main view screen flickered to life, displaying a simple text message in perfect CAC script. We know you're up there. Perhaps we should talk. Vexor's primary heart skipped a beat, though he would never admit such a vulnerability to his crew. In 15,000 cycles of hunting across multiple galaxies, no prey species had ever detected their approach. A lucky guess, he declared, his mandibles clicking in what passed for a laugh among his species. Ignore it. But then another message appeared. Supreme Hunter Vexor, your ship's cloaking resonance has a distinct pattern. We've been tracking you since Jupiter. Also, your personal trophy collection on Proxima b was most impressive, especially the Eruan spine wolf skull. Shall we discuss terms? The bridge fell into absolute silence. That trophy collection was supposed to be hidden in a secret vault known only to the highest echelons of the CAC military hierarchy. Even most of their own civilization didn't know about its existence. Vexor's war claws gouged deep marks into the command console. Prepare shock troops, he growled. If these humans want to play games, we'll show them why the CAC have ruled the stars since their ancestors were still swimming in primordial soup. Little did Supreme Hunter Vexor know that this moment would mark the beginning of the most transformative encounter in galactic history, the day humanity would not just become prey, but potential partners in a cosmic conflict that would reshape civilizations. The hunt was about to change forever. Quantum negotiations. The emergency lights cast an eerie crimson glow across the Shadowclaw's bridge, reflecting off the metallic scales of the stunned CAC crew. When every system on the ship suddenly went dark, even the most battle-hardened warriors felt a collective shiver of uncertainty. A new message blinked on their emergency screens. That was just a test run of our quantum interference field. Don't worry, your systems will reboot in about 3 minutes. In the meantime, we're sending up our ambassador. We took the liberty of docking with your ventral bay while you were distracted. For the first time in his long, violent life, Supreme Hunter Vexor experienced an emotion he'd only ever observed in the eyes of his prey, uncertainty. The mighty hunter had just become the potential hunted. Vexor and his command crew stormed toward the ventral docking bay, their ceremonial armor clanking ominously through the corridors. Though the Supreme Hunter had demanded they maintain dignity, anyone observing would have noticed they were practically running. When the airlock cycled open, a single human stood there, completely unarmed, wearing what appeared to be formal attire in midnight blue. And he was grinning. Vexor found this deeply unsettling. Prey were not supposed to grin. Supreme Hunter Vexor, the human announced, executing a small bow, Ambassador Ryland Blake, at your service. Love what you've done with the place. The skull motif is very traditional. Towering over the ambassador, all 4 meters of armored bulk designed to intimidate, Vexor demanded, how did you detect us? Speak quickly before I decide to add your skull to my collection. Blake's grin somehow managed to widen. Oh, that's a fun story. We weren't actually looking for your ship at all. We were tracking quantum fluctuations from our new coffee machines. Kai, the second in command, made a threatening move forward, but Blake seemed entirely unperturbed. Instead, he pulled out a data pad. Turns out your cloaking technology operates on the same frequency as our morning caffeine delivery systems. Quite the coincidence, wouldn't you say? Before anyone could respond, Blake continued, here's the really interesting part. Once we noticed you, we started digging into our archives. Did you know humans found one of your outposts on Mars? Been there for about 50,000 years. The projection from Blake's data pad showed distinctly CAC architecture, an outpost that looked like it had been casually abandoned, revealing intricate details of a civilization far more complex than any human had previously imagined. Your species used Mars as a hunting lodge, Blake explained. Very exotic at the time. Some of your ancestors even made bets on whether humans would survive the Ice Age. The implications were staggering. The CAC hadn't just visited Earth's solar system, they had been observing humanity's entire evolutionary journey. And now, they were about to propose something that would change everything. Revelations and negotiations. The Shadow Conference chamber aboard the Shadowclaw was never designed for comfort. The seats were engineered to keep warriors alert, their battle senses sharp and responsive. Yet Ambassador Ryland Blake lounged in the spike-back chair as if it were a luxury recliner, his fingers dancing effortlessly through holographic projections emanating from a device no larger than his palm. So here's the thing about your Mars outpost, Blake began, ancient CAC texts materializing around them in intricate, shimmering holograms. You weren't just hunting there. You were running from something. Vexor's scaled hide rippled with a mixture of rage and something else, a complex emotion that spoke of ancient memories long suppressed. The CAC run from nothing, he declared, but the statement lacked its previous certainty. Blake's projection shifted, revealing a three-dimensional image of an ancient warning beacon. Its message scrolled in blood-red CAC script, a translation appearing simultaneously. They come from the void between galaxies. They cannot be hunted. They cannot be killed. They consume all. Kai, always the most politically cautious of the command crew, stepped forward. His mandibles chattered nervously, a rare display of emotion for a species known for its stoic demeanor. Supreme Hunter, this is classified information. Even most of our own people don't know about the void parasites. Oh, it gets better, Blake continued, pulling up more projections. Holographic images of warning messages from 17 different extinct civilizations began to materialize, each describing the same terrifying threat. The narrative that unfolded was both brilliant and horrifying. The mighty CAC hadn't become galactic apex predators simply through brute force or technological superiority. They had been conducting a massive, multi-millennia experiment in species cultivation. You deliberately cultivated advanced civilizations, Blake explained, his earlier playful demeanor replaced by a harder, more analytical tone. Push them hard enough to develop better weapons and shields, but not so hard they'd be destroyed. All to prepare for the day the void parasites would return. The room fell silent as ancient sensor readings filled the air. Blake casually flicked through millions of years of carefully guarded CAC history as if browsing an entertainment feed. The real kicker, he leaned forward, his eyes reflecting the holographic data, is that you never considered one of your test subjects might advance faster than anticipated. That they might find your hidden outposts, decode your archives, and realize what was truly happening, all before you even noticed. Vexor rose to his full height, his massive frame casting imposing shadows across the conference chamber. The subtle environmental controls adjusted, sensing the rising tension. If you know all this, the Supreme Hunter's voice was a low, dangerous rumble, then you understand what's coming. The void parasites will reach the galaxy's edge soon. Blake's response was unexpected. Instead of fear or bravado, he showed something closer to professional respect. Precisely why we're here. Not as prey. Not as conquerors. But as potential partners. The holographic displays began to shift, showing intricate data streams that demonstrated humanity's rapid technological progression. Quantum computing breakthroughs. Advanced antimatter research. Experimental faster-than-light communication prototypes. We've been studying your species for generations, Blake continued. We understand now that your hunts were never just about predation. They were about preparation. About creating a unified galactic defense force by systematically pushing species to evolve. Kai's translator struggled to capture the nuanced subtext. The CAC had been playing a long game, a multi-generational strategy to create a collective defense against a threat so profound it could consume entire galaxies. Vexor's feeding tentacles, usually a sign of mild amusement or contempt, now moved with a strange, almost contemplative rhythm. Humans had not just discovered the CAC's secret. They had decoded its fundamental purpose. What exactly are you proposing? The Supreme Hunter's question held none of his previous arrogance. For the first time, there was genuine curiosity. Blake's smile returned, but it was different now, less a grin of mischief, more a calculated expression of strategic intent. A partnership that goes beyond anything your species has ever conceived. A collaboration that could potentially save not just one civilization, but potentially all of them. The void parasites were coming. And humanity had just become more than just another species in the CAC's elaborate evolutionary chess game. They had become potential saviors. Technological convergence. The quantum research facility nestled deep within the Atacama Desert was humanity's most closely guarded scientific sanctuary. Designed to be invisible from orbit, its true purpose remained a mystery even to most government agencies. Now, it would become the unlikely meeting ground between two civilizations on the brink of a potential galactic alliance. Ambassador Ryland Blake had insisted on neutral ground for the next phase of negotiations. The CAC delegation, led by Supreme Hunter Vexor and his second-in-command Kai, found themselves surrounded by technologies that defied their initial understanding of human capabilities. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the facility's lead quantum physicist, stood before a holographic display that seemed to dance with impossible complexity. Quantum entanglement algorithms intertwined with predictive modeling that even the CAC's most advanced computational systems struggled to comprehend. The void parasites aren't just a threat, she explained, her hands moving through the holographic projection, they're a fundamental challenge to our understanding of spacetime itself. Vexor's translator captured the nuanced scientific language, but something deeper was happening. The CAC were witnessing something unprecedented, a human scientific team that spoke their language of pure research and existential challenge. The hologram shifted, revealing intricate patterns of quantum interference that matched the very cloaking technology the CAC had considered their most closely guarded secret. Tiny molecular-level manipulations that could bend light, distort spacetime, and create adaptive camouflage systems that made their own technology look primitive. Your Mars outpost, Dr. Rodriguez continued, wasn't just a hunting lodge. It was a seed. A technological breadcrumb deliberately left for an emerging civilization to discover. Kai's scaled hide rippled with what could only be described as professional admiration. The humans had not just discovered the CAC's secrets, they had reverse-engineered them, improved upon them, and were now preparing to weaponize that knowledge against a threat that had consumed entire civilizations. The void parasites were more than just a cosmic horror. They were a fundamental challenge to the very concept of organized life in the universe. Creatures that existed between quantum states, capable of consuming entire star systems by unraveling the fundamental bonds that held matter together. We've identified their primary method of galactic consumption. Dr. Rodriguez pulled up a three-dimensional model that made even the battle-hardened CAC warriors take an involuntary step back. They don't just destroy. They deconstruct. Entire civilizations become raw material for their expansion. Blake, who had been quietly observing, chose this moment to interject. Which is why your species has been playing this elaborate evolutionary game for millennia. You weren't just hunting. You were creating a distributed defense network. Vexor's response was unexpected. Not a declaration of superiority, but a moment of genuine vulnerability. We discovered them 87,000 of your years ago. The first civilization we found had been reduced to quantum dust. No weapons. No resistance. Just consumption. The research facility's environmental systems had been carefully calibrated to accommodate both human and CAC physiological requirements. Humidity. Temperature. Atmospheric composition. Every detail meticulously planned to create a neutral ground for communication. Dr. Rodriguez pulled up a series of quantum signatures. Our preliminary research suggests they operate on a multidimensional frequency. Not just 3 or 4 dimensions, but potentially 11 or 12 simultaneously. They move through reality the way your species moves through water. Kai stepped forward, his translator rendering his complex communication patterns into precise English. How do you propose to fight something that exists between the cracks of reality? The answer came not from Dr. Rodriguez, but from a junior researcher who had been quietly working in the background. Maya Chen, barely 30, had been studying the CAC communication patterns for months. We don't fight them, she said, her voice calm and precise. We restructure the fundamental rules of their existence. The room fell silent. Quantum entanglement. Dimensional manipulation. The ability to not just defend against the void parasites, but to fundamentally alter the quantum landscape they used for transit. Humanity and the CAC were no longer predator and prey. They were becoming something else entirely. Partners in a war that would determine the fate of multiple galaxies. The quantum threshold. The moment of convergence arrived not with a thunderous battle or a dramatic declaration, but with a subtle quantum resonance that rippled across multiple dimensions of reality. 12 months after the initial encounter between Ambassador Ryland Blake and Supreme Hunter Vexor, humanity and the CAC had transformed from potential adversaries to something far more complex. Their joint research facility, hidden beneath the Atacama Desert, had become the most important scientific installation in the known universe. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a quantum interface that looked less like a scientific instrument and more like a living, breathing organism. Crystalline structures pulsed with an inner light that seemed to breathe, each pulse representing calculations so complex they would have driven a standard computer system into complete failure. "We're ready," she announced, her voice carrying a mixture of scientific precision and barely contained excitement. The void parasites were approaching. Not just a threat, but a fundamental challenge to the very concept of organized life in the universe. Supreme Hunter Vexor, whose presence now seemed less intimidating and more collaborative, watched the preparations. The CAC had brought technologies that humans could barely comprehend, while humanity had contributed something equally valuable: radical thinking, adaptability, and an almost reckless willingness to challenge fundamental scientific assumptions. Maya Chen, the junior researcher who had first proposed restructuring the parasite's quantum existence, activated the final calibration sequence. Quantum entanglement generators began to hum, creating a network of interference patterns that would have been invisible to any conventional scanning system. Dimensional fold at 87.3%, Kai reported, his translation systems rendering complex CAC communication into precise human language. Quantum resonance matching predicted parasite transit frequencies. The void parasites were not a traditional enemy. They were more like a cosmic force, entities that moved between the cracks of reality, consuming entire civilizations by unraveling the fundamental bonds that held matter together. Traditional weapons were useless. Conventional defense systems were irrelevant. But this was not a conventional defense. Initiating quantum interference pattern, Maya announced. Her fingers danced across interfaces that seemed to respond to her touch with almost sentient precision. The research facility's shields, a combination of CAC cloaking technology and human quantum manipulation, began to pulse. Not with energy, but with something more fundamental. Information. Probability. The very fabric of spacetime itself. Ambassador Blake, who had been the unexpected catalyst for this entire collaboration, watched with a mix of scientific curiosity and strategic calculation. Humanity had discovered something profound in their encounters with the CAC, that evolution was not just about survival, but about fundamental transformation. The first signs of the void parasites' approach were subtle. A quantum disturbance. A slight warping of local spacetime that would have been invisible to any conventional detection system. But the combined human-CAC system was anything but conventional. Contact in 3, 2, 1. Dr. Rodriguez's countdown was unnecessary. The entire facility could feel the approach. The void parasites arrived exactly as predicted. But what happened next was unprecedented. Instead of consumption, there was negotiation. The quantum interface began to translate something that was less communication and more a fundamental exchange of existential information. The parasites weren't just consuming. They were searching. Evolving. Looking for something beyond mere physical existence. And humanity and the CAC had just provided them with an alternative. "They're changing," Maya whispered, her eyes reflecting complex holographic data streams. Not being destroyed. Not destroying. Transforming. Vexor's feeding tentacles, once a sign of predatory intent, now moved with something closer to scientific fascination. The CAC had spent millennia preparing for this moment, cultivating civilizations, pushing species to evolve, creating a distributed network of technological and biological diversity. Humanity was the unexpected variable. The species that didn't just adapt but reimagined the very rules of adaptation. Hours passed. Or perhaps moments. Time itself seemed fluid within the research facility. When the quantum interference pattern finally stabilized, something extraordinary had occurred. The void parasites hadn't been defeated. They had been communicated with. Transformed. First contact, Ambassador Blake said softly, isn't about conquest. It's about conversation. The universe had just changed forever. Outside the facility, the stars continued their ancient dance. But something fundamental had shifted. Humanity and the CAC were no longer separate species. They were partners in a cosmic dialogue that would reshape understanding itself. And the void parasites? They were no longer a threat to be eliminated, but a phenomenon to be understood.